Hi, I'm Sara and welcome to What's on Tap. In this episode, we're discussing the topic du jour, craft beer, with Artie Tafoya of Appalachian Brewing Company. Tell us about how you landed in Harrisburg.
Well, I was living in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and it's it's a great place to live. Ski area, had the best life there. Ran into a couple guys on probably the best powder day ever. Jack Sprock and Sean Gallagher, my partners, they came into my brew pub there and said, "Hey, we want to open a brew pub in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Would you be interested in helping us out?" I said, "Sure," not thinking anything would ever come out of it.
Right.
Next time I heard from them, I got a ticket in the mail to meet them in British Columbia to look at a brewing system that they wanted to buy. And from there, we hit it off and been great partners ever since.
How did you end up at this exact beautiful building?
Well, Jack and Sean called me again and then send me another plane ticket out here, right? So, I'd open my mail and go, "What is this? Where am I going now?" Right? They flew me into Harrisburg and they took me to about 10 buildings in the city. And all of them looked very similar. They were beat up old buildings that had sat for 30, 40 years empty. I remember specifically walking into this building and just looking at it and going, "You know what, guys, I think this is it. But if you guys take on this project, you're crazy," right? And come to find out, they are crazy. They've been great partners and we're the best of friends today.
How did you actually get into brewing yourself?
Well, I started as a home brewer. It was one of those things where I was in school and it was a hobby of mine. I actually remember in 8th grade, I stole some grape concentrate out of my freezer at my house and took it downstairs and in some gallon jugs, put it in there with some yeast because I saw, I think I read a book or something about fermentation. So I made my first batch of wine, and it was absolutely terrible.
I'm sure.
But I didn't get discouraged, and I just then started making homebrew, and then
So you were still high school age when you started homebrewing?
No, I was in college.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in college, but just started that whole process, and then it went from one thing to the next. I started teaching a homebrewing class, and then opened my first brew pub in 1988 in Vail, Colorado, actually.
To start that young, so was it interest in chemistry, or was it one of those where you didn't like the beer that was available, or you wanted to save money? I know a lot of people start homebrewing for a number of different reasons.
I studied marketing, and so for me, I was always trying to develop a brand. And my way of developing it was both through the restaurant industry, which I worked part-time and full-time, all through since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So sort of took that, the idea of marketing, I added in the idea of creating a brand, and then working through the restaurant business to make a brew pub. And sort of funny, I've been in this industry almost 30 years now.
How has the craft beer craze, the recent one that's been going on for the last few years, how does it affect you?
Well, I don't think it really does affect me. We support all the small breweries coming in. A couple of them have worked for me in the past. And the neat thing is over my 30 years in this industry, I've seen us go from one big spike in craft beers, another one in the 90s, and this is just another one. But the neat thing about it is they get bigger every time.
Yeah.
So that ride gets a little wilder, of course. But some of the small breweries will shake out. You got to remember, it's still a business.
Yeah.
And those guys that get in it with their heart is one thing. But to get in it and make sure that you have the capital you need and all the other aspects to run a successful business is the harder part.
You actually host a small festival here every year that brings in a lot of those local brewers. And I really feel like there is sort of like a sense of community with the beer industry that you don't necessarily find with the wine industry, or maybe as much even in the restaurant industry. Do you see that happen for you?
You bet. I mean, like I said, we support each other. We've always worked together in this industry. If one brewer needs this or we need this, you can call them up one day and pick it up the next. And it's, sometimes we don't even worry, hey, we'll get you later on it,
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So, and that's with the small brewers too. We get people who come in asking for yeast or other things, and we've always been very supportive. And I think we're also respectful of each of us trying to make good beer.
Right.
Because that's really important. We don't want a lot of people making beer that's not great that would reflect upon our industry.
Sure. So
it's much better for us to help each other out.
What is standout about your beers at all of your places is that we're drinking fresh beer. What are the qualities that people can look for to determine whether a beer is fresh or not, besides coming to Appalachian Brewing Company?
Early in my career, I was very, very fortunate for this industry to allow me to travel to Europe a lot. Mm-hmm. I was able to go and I've toured over 150 breweries all over the world. And what that taught me a lot about was these small towns that had 2 or 3 breweries and having that fresh beer. And nowadays you look at it and you look at our little community here, having 1, 2, 3, 4 breweries in the region, and that fresh beer is so important. Now you look at imports coming in, and everybody's sort of big on imports, but those things sit in a transit container for a long time. They try to get them here as quickly as possible, but there's a reason I don't sell my beer in California.
Right.
It's not great in California. I want it to be great, and I want it to be great here locally.
You have several flagship beers, you have seasonal beers, and then you do at least a beer release a month of
Right.
something that a smaller batch. What do you find that most people are coming in looking for? Are they excited about those new releases, or are people, tried and true with the steady flagships?
Well, I think you got to strike a balance. You can't, if you're always coming out with a new beer all the time, you can't build a brand.
Right.
We've got to build a brand. We've got to build a brand in the outside market that we market in central and eastern Pennsylvania, Maryland, and working back into Northern Virginia and those types of things. We've got to build a brand to sell our product in that area. So we have to have consistent product every day that comes out and goes into those areas. That's building a brand. Now, we still want to make it a lot of fun too.
Right.
So we do a lot there as well, where we can add in new ingredients, all sorts of different styles. You see so many great styles out there now, and then there's hybrid styles. You can make a beer that is not really a specific style or a blend of 2 styles.
Right.
A blend of, now you see
like
now a blend of wine, a bourbon stout,
Yes.
and so you see all these things happening, and it's really cool in the industry.
How do you come up with the ideas to do the small batches?
Well, we have stock recipes. We have over 100 recipes, and we're able to take those recipes and sort of divvy them up to locations. Mm-hmm. We also let the general manager, the bartenders, and the server staff sometimes help us pick those.
Awesome.
Because they know their customers. They know what their customers ask for. They know what their customers want. And that's what ultimately we want to give anyway. So when we make those decisions, we let them have some input in it. Then we design it out, send it out, and that's basically our schedule for those 12 to 20 different beers that we can get out of each location in a year.
What do you see as sort of the future of craft beer? Where do you see this going? I mean, you talked about even the highs and the lows, but what's next?
We're still a small part of the market. We really are, and we grow every year, but we're still a really small piece of the pie. So there's a lot of growth there for us, I think. And I think there's enough room in the beer industry for everybody. You need those bigger breweries to produce that beer that people like to have one after the other, same beer, same beer, same beer. And then there's the breweries like us that try to make something different, that gives the beer drinker something different every time they walk through the doors. And I think that's our customer that's coming in.
Right.
And then on our side, it's just education. We have to teach you that this beer here has the intricate flavors that are there. Otherwise, you look at it and go, wow, that looks thick. Oh, and so that's not what we want. We want them to understand the beer so that then when they taste it, they go, let me see. I get that now. Yeah. that's not real thick. That's sort of what we try to teach and promote here.
Well, Artie, thank you so much for taking time with us today.
Thank you.
Good luck and cheers.
Cheers. Mostly it's their recipe.
Okay.
Yeah, we do their recipe in terms of what they want to produce.
Mm-hmm.
There are times where we have people come to us. Sorry, did I hurt your ears?
That was awesome.